So what brought them to couples therapy was the husband moved, um, suddenly initiated separation of some sort, left the house a few months ago. It was very sudden. The wife was totally surprised. She described it was a 180 change in attitude. The trigger for him leaving was that he found his wife was being friendly, texting with a male friend. From what they described, there was nothing that's considered cheating or inappropriate. It was friendly, just inviting the friend to come over. And the husband felt that was behind his back. Basically, the husband said he had been bottling things up for years. He didn't mention anything before, and he always ended up apologizing. He says he was people pleasing until he finally exploded, and he has zero trust for the wife. The husband's father was emotionally abusive and verbally abusive, so he was really sensitive to his wife's behaviors over the years, where her voice got loud when they were fighting. She would be yelling. And in sessions, he kept saying he couldn't let it go. He couldn't forgive her. He said he wasn't ready to share what was really bothering him. And he wasn't ready to share because he didn't trust the wife to listen to him, show understanding, and really validate his feelings without getting very angry again. And interestingly, he refused my request to speak to his individual therapist. He wasn't willing to give consent. His wife and me and his family, her family, they were all confused about the magnitude of his reactions, because they didn't think what happened, I guess, qualify for him to have such a big reaction, because the wife didn't cheat, and they don't quite understand why. And he often says, I don't know, I don't know what to say. And he did, so we worked on establishing some boundaries in terms of contact with the opposite sex that they both agreed to. I did call him out on some double standard where he was close to a female friend, and the wife was really insecure about that particular female friend. She didn't care about other female friends. He was interacting with her, even hanging out with her, helping her out. At first, he wasn't willing to keep his distance, and didn't validate his wife's insecurities about that female friend. And I called him out because there seems to be some kind of double standard, because he cared a lot when one of her ex friended her on Facebook, and she didn't do anything, but even just that request on social media really set him off, that he wasn't willing to validate her concerns and insecurities. Later, I think he finally learned the impact on his wife, and then agreed to keep some distance from that female friend. And what I've been doing with them was to really helping them work on their communication. We worked on the initiator listener process, and we worked on having a spectrum in terms of the things to share that make them uncomfortable, and they practice sharing from the lower end of the spectrum, and they can build some trust with each other, that they would listen and show validation for each other.
And when you say build trust from the lower end of the spectrum, you mean to try to say things, for him to say things to her that are not very explosive or very important, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, because he has been for a while hesitating to share what's really bothering him,
Right.
because he doesn't trust her reactions. So I thought we could start by, for him to share something that's not so emotionally charged, but
Right.
that's something still bothers him, and for her to show understanding and to show that she would not get angry and explosive, so he can have some trust toward her. And hopefully he can share later. So I guess my question I want to bring to the consultation is, how do I approach him? Because I do feel like he's hiding something. I don't know what. And he even requested to see me individually before they see me together again. So I think maybe he's ready to talk. And even going into that individual session, I want to tell him, we don't hold secrets. If you tell me something here, we will have to discuss it with your wife. I am a bit confused about how long he's holding on to this. I mean, in session, I tried a lot to validate and empathize with his position, especially considering he bottled up his feelings for so many years, and maybe conflict avoidance for so many years. He must have internalized a lot of anger and resentment toward her. So I don't want to judge him for almost like holding his entire family in hostage in a sense. And she's starting to lose patience. She's doubting if he still loves her, and she thinks basically he's waiting for her to say divorce, so he doesn't need to be the bad guy. Well, that's where she is now.
So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to try to be as helpful as I can with a couple of things. One issue that I'm thinking of as I hear you talk, I was reminded of how important it is in couples therapy, to work with the area of self-esteem, not just the area of attachment. So, I think that the area of self-esteem and the area of attachment and the area of differentiation, all three areas are very important to tackle in couples therapy. But with a conflict avoidant man who has had a history of trauma or abuse, whether it's, this is, not surprisingly, they tend to pair up with somebody who in some ways reflect and reenact those emotionally or abusive interactions. And so when he says that he is worried about talking with her, I would want to explore a little more the effect of her tone and her interactions with him on his self-esteem. So I believe that when I say that it's important to talk about self-esteem and not just attachment or differentiation, what I mean by that is that, and I think you know that by the kind of work that you've been doing with them to try to get her to hear and validate and empathize with him, but I would want him to be able to tell her the ways in which her voice or her tone impacts him, but not just him, but his self-esteem. So what you're trying to access is, does he feel inadequate? Does he feel like a loser? Does he feel like a doormat? I mean, many, many men, when they are faced with a partner who affects their self-esteem, will say that if given the opportunity. Now, it's not easy for some men to say what they're really feeling. I remember one man I talked to who was extremely conflict avoidant, who his wife was often berating him and criticizing him and blaming him. And one time, you know, he would deny that anything that anything had an effect on him. And one time when I pressed and persisted on asking the question about how he felt about that, said to me, well, I feel hurt when she does that. And then when I asked him, would you ever consider telling her that you feel hurt? He said, oh no, that would make me feel like a loser. That would make me feel weak. I would never confide that in her. So it's not only that he's not telling her what's going on with him, which is, you know, he may be well lying or cheating, I don't know, but he's also not confiding what's really going on internally for him whenever she expresses herself in a certain way with him. So part of the work in an individual session might be to try to get at that, to get him to tell you not so much what she does, but what he feels, his reaction. And then when you go a little further, you might even connect it to the ways he felt when he was little. For example, you know, there is a client who, when the parents fought, used to go under the table and close his ears. So now, whenever his partner, screamed at him, he shut his ears down and did the same. So whatever survival strategy they learned to deal with the abuse when they were growing up is linked to most likely the way they're dealing with their partners now. So anyway, that's just one area of exploration that you can do with him in an individual session. Do you have any questions about that before I go on to a second area of exploration?
He did mention, you know, he felt angry and depressed, and dealing with all those years of her anger. I could certainly explore more in depth.
Right. I think you're looking for the shame-based response. I think you need to find, so, you know, a little more about the effect of her words on his self-esteem. What did that make you feel about yourself? So you got to find some ways, not so much about getting him to tell you his anger and frustration towards her, because that's that's focused on her. What you're trying to get him to do is focus on himself, and what that said to him about himself. What did he say to himself internally? What did he, you know, you could say, what did you say to yourself? What did you think? Not just what did you feel, but what did you think about yourself? And so what you're trying is to go for words like weak or inadequate or like a loser or like I didn't matter, or, you know, just a little more about what's going on with him, more than the frustration is the surface emotion, and so you want to try to get to an emotion that is under the frustration and the anger. Okay,
That
so
makes sense.
and so of course then we could talk about what you do with that once you uncover them, but let's see if you can just uncover them so he can be a little more truthful to you about that.
Okay.
Right? So with respect to you know, the secrets policy is very confusing, and it would probably take a longer time for me to talk about that. We don't have a whole lot of time in this live case consultation. I am going to say that you know, it's a little bit of an ambiguous issue. I don't necessarily, I think that people need to be able to talk to me, and I don't necessarily think that everything that people reveal to me has to be disclosed. I'm going to refer everyone to an article by Michelle Scheichman about infidelity that this depicts different ways of dealing with infidelity disclosures in couples therapy when they are disclosed to the individual therapist. And I think what you, I think you could, if you're not ready, you can avoid asking questions about that, because what you really want to know is to what extent he's able to be truthful with himself about what he wants and what his goals are. So for example, I would, in that individual session, be more interested in honing in on the individual change goals. What is he trying to improve? What is he trying to do? What is he trying to get out of the couples therapy? And I haven't asked you that, Apollonia, so I don't know, assuming that you had that clear in the beginning, when you get stuck, it's always good to go back and review those, to review the individual change goals that you had in the beginning of the process. What is he trying, and to do them in the context of an individual session when you're stuck is even more important. So what is it that he's trying to get? What is it that he needs to do to improve? What does he want the outcome of the couples therapy to be? What is his vision about what your role is? What does he want? What is his theory about why he's coming to see you? And what is his expectation of your role? I think that would be a very important conversation for you to have with him in an individual session, rather than worrying about whether he's going to disclose about an affair or about some inappropriate behavior.
Okay. Yeah, he initially, you know, they both stated their individual goals and their expectations for couples therapy. He wants to repair their marriage and see if they can make it work. And she acknowledged she needs to work on her temper, her communication. I think she improved somewhat, but now it's a good time to revisit his individual
Well, it's a good
goals.
time to revisit because his goals are a little more vague.
Yeah.
It's possible for a conflict avoidant man to have goals that are other directed, meaning he wants her to be more careful with the way he talks to her, but it's not very clear to him or to you what it will require of him in order to have a better relationship. Also, I want to know what a better do you know what a better relationship means to them? What is their vision about what a collaborative or a good relationship is? I'm wondering if you've done that part of the work with them.
He mentioned he feels very depressed actually when he's, you know, not out of the house alone. He actually does a lot better emotionally when he's with family. It's just he can't bring himself to forgive her or
right.
to,
So the
to
question
forget.
would be, what does repair look like? He says he wants to repair, but what does that look like for him? What would he have to do in order to repair, not just her? Now, I do want to say before we're done today that I might, if I were in your shoes, I might suspect that he is hiding something because he doesn't want you to talk to his therapist. So I would want to have a conversation a bit about that too. Not so much to get him to give you permission yet, although that may be a long-term goal, but for you to see, you know, what I would say to him is, you don't have to tell me what it is you don't want me to know, but I'd be curious to know, why do you think I shouldn't be talking to her? And what do you think is the risk in me talking to her? So I would like to have a conversation about the conversation he doesn't want you to have with her, to begin to approximate that issue. I don't know that I wouldn't ask him to tell you why, because otherwise he would let you talk to her, but I would ask him to tell you, again, I wouldn't ask him to tell you what it is that he's hiding, but I would want to know why it is that he doesn't want, are there private things that he wants? I just want him to say that to you. There are private things that I'm talking with her that I don't want you to know, because I don't want my wife to know. I mean, I just want you to say that. I don't want him, I would like for him to be able to say that to you, even though he doesn't tell you what those things are. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he said he just prefers to keep the sessions private, but I think it's good to explore that.
Well, but again, this is very vague. So a big part of your job is to try to get him to be less vague about what he says. Yes, a conflict avoidant man, will wiggle out of that every single time. They will tell you something that is so vague that you don't even know what it means. So a part of the work is to try to get him to be a little less vague. Okay, I think we need to be done because it's 11:30 now. I'm gonna stay on in this live session. So Apollonia, just stay with me. I think we're doing fine this way.
Okay.
I would like to just ask people who are live to put in the chat any questions that they have or any comments about what we just talked about. I don't know how many people are live. Maybe Laura can tell me if you know how many people are live, or maybe so that the last few times we've done this, the people tend not to be live, but they tend to watch the replay. So I'm going to try to upload the replay of this as soon as I can. I don't think I'm seeing any things in the chat, so we're gonna sign off. Oh, somebody. I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes. So for those of you who are watching either now or later, I try to do this about once a month. The next one, actually, why don't I say the next one will be on Wednesday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m. So the next live couples case consultation will be on Wednesday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m. If anybody has questions about the Academy for Couples Therapists upcoming membership, you can email me at sarah@theacademyforcouplestherapist.com. And I will sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
See you at the end of October. Bye-bye.
Bye. Do I also leave the meeting now?
Just to stay on.
Okay.
guess I have to do it, I have to change the camera. Right, I have to do it this way. So,